Okay, so great to meet you. I'm Josh, by the way.
Steven.
Steven, nice to meet you, Steven. Let me ask you this. As an atheist, do you believe that this building could be made by accident?
No.
Okay, so you have to admit there's a creator behind it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how about one cell in your body? Would you say one cell in your body, considering the DNA and amino acid chains and all that, would be more complex than this building?
Yes.
Okay, so what are the chances that that could happen by accident, or let's say an explosion or something like that?
Well, I mean, the whole reason that that's possible is because there's a long time which it occurs. It doesn't start out that way. It started out as something much simpler, and as things became more complex, they separated. And as they separated, then they got more complex and more different, and that's how I think the cells originated.
So basically you're saying that life, in a sense, happened by chance, not by a creator.
Well, I think that if you mix the right stuff, like the right elements, the right heat, the right amount of change in on a planet, let's say, then it's more. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me completely start off. All right, let me completely go back. I think if you mix all the right stuff and under the right circumstances, you can get the right outcome. And while we haven't seen complex life anywhere else, we have found bacterial life on other planets. We've found microorganisms.
Okay, so would you I guess microorganisms, as a believer in a creator, it's pretty easy to explain as from our standpoint, as God put those there if those were there. But have you ever seen evolution? Have you ever seen, let's say, life come by accident, ever?
Well, I mean, I've seen
With
evolution.
your own eyes, I should say.
I've seen evolution because we've sort of learned how to use it. That's why we have different breeds of dogs, is because we've used evolution to artificially breed dogs.
Well, evolution is more like, let's say, a frog turns into a dog. So that's not really evolution, just
It's
different
not a
breeds
frog
of
turning
dog.
into a dog. It's the frog and the dog have a common ancestor, and what separates them is how far back their common ancestor is. And when they separated and became two separate species from that common ancestor, then those changes kept on getting more complex and more complex.
But you said dogs breeding into different, that's not really evolution though, correct?
It's not necessarily a different species that it creates.
No, exactly. That's my point.
But there are ways that it could be technically, or it could just over a long period of time. Time is just one of the key factors of all of this. I don't think that, like, under the belief that the Earth is really young and really new, that's not possible with evolution. What's possible with evolution is the Earth being here a long time, and there is proof of the Earth being here a long time.
Now, I'm assuming you're thinking of radiocarbon dating.
Not just radiocarbon dating, but just the overall fossil record. Just as you go farther down, things are separated by all these different occurrences, and you can see like what the weather was like when it was their time.
Yeah.
You can see, we understand how the Earth can change in that way, and we have seen that the Earth is continuing to change in those ways, and we've seen that we can mark off period by period what happened.
Now, a lot of people say that the Great Flood is what caused those different layers that we see of the fossil record. But let's diverge from that. Let's go back to the life by accident. So you're saying this building can't be made by accident, but your body is much more complex than that, and you think that that could happen by accident over millions of years.
I don't necessarily think that it's by accident.
So then there'd have to be a creator. It's either one or the other, right?
Well, the creator can just be time.
Well, time doesn't create. If I look at this, this sidewalk isn't going to create anything over a zillion years, right?
Well, the sidewalk itself, it might not change, but the things around it will, and it'll affect the sidewalk, and the sidewalk will change.
But what you're, I think, confusing is creation versus creator. The creation can't create. The creation just, now can decompose,
Well, I
definitely
mean,
does decompose.
So currently the main theory is the Big Bang theory, right?
Yeah.
That's like the main. That's like the main accepted belief of how the universe is scientific.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when the Big Bang happened, everything spewed out, and it was a big mixture of everything. And there's theories as to what made up the Big Bang. Some think that it was a universe collapsing that made the Big Bang possible. So if a universe collapsed, then that's all of the elements within that universe getting pressured down into a hot and dense section, and then it just all explodes and goes out. And as it's cooling off, and as all this radiation is decaying at different rates, all of these different chemicals are coming out, and all these different elements are coming out, and they're able to become more complex with time because molecules can be crafted. And
well, let me ask you this. Typically, let's say I have an M80, and I put it in a pile of, let's say, fruit, let's say, and it blows up. Will that fruit become, let's say, like a nice organized pineapple, or will it just probably be a bunch of splattered fruit all over the place with no real design to it?
Well, I mean, if it's in a room, then nothing will really come of it. But if you explode all the fruit and it's here in the right circumstance, and it's here in the right situation, like if you did it over here, then the seeds would scatter everywhere, and then more fruit would grow up from that area.
Now, from what I understand, the Big Bang is kind of like a bang from nothing, right? Like there's nothing, and then all of a sudden there's an explosion. Now, how do you get the bang from nothing?
You get the bang from nothing because, as I said, it's from a universe collapsing. And when the universe collapses, everything goes to it goes to the epicenter. That's what happens when a collapse occurs. And when everything goes to the epicenter, it keeps on compacting itself and getting smaller and smaller.
Now, have you ever seen a universe collapse?
Well, we haven't seen a universe collapse, but we're able to simulate those kinds of things.
Now, how would you, I guess, put so much faith in what these scientists are telling you when it seems pretty far-fetched from a logical standpoint? Just seeing what happens typically when an explosion occurs, typically life doesn't form.
Well, first, science is a bunch of theories. None of it's just observations of what we've seen in the universe. Science is an observation of what's around us. Science is an observation of everything.
Now let me ask you this. Is the theory of evolution an observation, or is it a theory?
It's both.
Well, how they actually observed it, though.
They try to make sense out of the world with their observations.
Yeah.
And with them trying to make sense of the world, that theory comes from that.
Yeah. So a theory really isn't, they haven't actually seen like a monkey turn into a human over zillions of years, right? They just find like and this is one thing I learned, is that some of these people that do the digging up of the fossils, they actually will make up stuff just to keep their funding coming in and say, well, this pig tooth is a tooth of a human being that lived a zillion years ago. That's one of the descendants of a human or whatever. So sometimes these people lie just to keep their funding, and it isn't necessarily. And how can you put so much faith in these people? You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree. Some science can be fake. There's a lot of stuff that's attempted to be fake.
Right.
And
yeah.
But with science, what's really happening is the hard science and the science that makes it into textbooks isn't those little sales that scientists try to make when they don't really have anything. You can't really get far in the science community because everything is peer reviewed. You need to understand, or you need to explain how you got there, and it all needs to be proven in some way. And again, it's not proving that it's 100% certain. It's proving that this is probably how it is, because we can't entirely be certain.
Now let me ask you, do you believe that Jesus Christ existed?
Yes.
Oh, good. So you believe he died on the cross?
Yes.
So, but you're not a believer?
No.
Now, why not? That's interesting.
Well, there's other religions have their prophets who did have suffering, like Jesus.
Sure. A lot of religions out there, that's for sure.
There's lots of religions, and a lot of it is based off of the same kind of principles that kind of Christianity follows. Like, if you look at, like, Christianity itself is like a wide spectrum of things. There's so many different beliefs about how it works, all under the term Christianity. But you have Baptist, you have Presbyterian, like
A lot of different sects, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, look, just the basics though. Now, do you believe you've sinned before?
Well, sin would indicate that God is real, and I don't believe that God is real. So I don't believe that I have sinned because I don't believe sin exists.
Interesting. So would you say telling a lie is not sin?
Well, I mean, it's defined as a sin.
But in your mind, is it a sin?
It's something wrong.
Well, then that would categorize it as a sin then, right?
Well, it's not a sin against someone else. It's just a bad thing to do.
So let's say that you have a wife and you lie to her and say, I didn't sleep with this other woman, but you did. Would that be sin? Or no?
Well, it would be classified as sin.
Yeah.
But the action itself is not sin because
So you think adultery and lying
I think it's wrong.
Okay. So now, do you think there's an absolute morality, and if so, where does that come from?
In absolute morality, I don't think anything is truly 100% moral. I think what's weird is humans say, "Oh, it's wrong to kill another person," and yeah, it is. I'm not justifying that it's wrong, not wrong. But when like a tiger kills like another tiger,
Yeah.
then that's not wrong. That's survival.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the whole point of religion
Mm-hmm.
is to sort of separate ourselves from acting that way so that we can become better. And I think that's why religion mattered throughout history.
That's interesting you said. You know, there's the animal nature, right, that a lot of people do follow and to their own destruction. Then there's the spiritual nature that the Bible talks about, right, that you kind of live above that. So, you know, that's one thing that I guess since you don't believe you need forgiveness of sins, is that correct?
Well, I mean, if I do something wrong against someone else, I'd want their forgiveness.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I need to ask for God's forgiveness.
Okay.
Because I don't think God exists.
Okay. So you believe Jesus existed, that he died on the cross? You believe that too? Interesting. But you don't believe that there's a God?
No, I don't believe there's a God.
Wow, that's interesting. But you believe that, let's say, you could be made by an explosion, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Basically?
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, I guess for me, it would take more faith to believe that than to believe in intelligent design. I mean, have you ever heard of the theory of irreducible complexity of a cell?
I'm sure. I don't know the name, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what this. Basically, what it's saying is all the parts of the cell have to be working at once in order for it to survive.
Yes.
So it couldn't evolve, like let's say that the mouth of the cell evolves, and then it's able to eat, but it can't move to get to the food, right? Or let's say the legs exist, but then it doesn't have a mouth to feed, so they the legs can get the nutrients it needs to stay alive. So basically, all the parts have to be working simultaneously at once. Boom, for that cell to exist, to survive. So that kind of, in a sense, would throw out evolution because evolution requires that parts develop over time. You know, and a lot of times they say, well, this primordial ooze existed, and then out of that ooze, this cell developed, and then it turned into a frog, and then it turned into a bird, and then all that stuff. But everything has to be working simultaneously for that cell to survive. So that's the theory of irreducible complexity. And to me, it's not really a theory. It seems very much more of a, it's observable, right? Much more observable than an accidental creation, where something just accidentally, complex life accidentally just showed up. You know what I mean? I'm actually a math teacher, see, so logically, let's say even a DNA strand coming by accident. You know what a DNA strand is created of, or made up of?
Yeah, proteins.
What else? Amino acid chains, right?
Amino acid chains.
Yeah. So the complexity of those chains is so enormous that for that to happen by accident, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like throwing a deck of cards on the ground, and you're supposed to land in the specific, numbers have to line up just right for this DNA strand to even survive and all of that, right? So, really examine that,
Well, I mean, the first life was much simpler than it is now.
Well, even
to
a simple
compare it
life.
with how,
Yeah.
So to compare it with how it is now,
Yeah.
it isn't the same because that was unicellular organisms.
Well, even one cell, we know how complex. See, this is the thing. What's his? The guy Darwin, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have a complex microscope to look into the complexity of a cell. So he saw a blob and he said, "Okay, this is very simple." But now that we have these super high-powered, microscopes,
Well, I mean,
we can see how
microscopes
complex it
were-
is.
Microscopes were in existence.
Yeah, when Darwin was, exactly. But they weren't to the point where you could really see the detail and the complexity of a cell. So his old-fashioned microscope was nothing like what we have now, high-powered ones that can really go in to see a lot more of the complexity of a cell. So he didn't see that. So when he made his theories, he kind of did it off of ignorance because he didn't see the complexity of a cell. Like some of these cells have even little oars and stuff that help them to swim around and, motors in a sense. Even the little simplest of life. So really research, if you maybe get a chance, look at creation science. But
I have looked at it.
have you?
Yeah. I have looked at it. I was Christian when I was younger.
Oh, really?
And I've just come to realize God isn't proven to be real. And yeah.
How would you disprove God?
How would I disprove God? Well, I mean, there are plenty of theories disproving God from a rational standpoint. We discussed some of them when we were talking about Descartes in my philosophy class.
Oh, Descartes.
Yeah.
Now tell me more about that. What is that all about?
Descartes believed that everything that there is should be doubted. And he believed that the concept of I, which is like consciousness, I don't want to use that word because consciousness is loosely defined.
Yeah.
But the concept of I, like I think, I know that is real.
Yeah.
Everything I see, I don't know if that is real. I can't prove that anything around me actually exists because I've had dreams that are just like this. I could wake up 5 minutes from now and be like, oh, it was all a dream. But there's no way to prove that I'm not in a dream. There's no way to prove that I'm not being deceived in some way, as Descartes would say.
Yeah.
He said there's some deceiver that makes you see everything differently. Or he said there could be, because you can't be certain of this.
Interesting. So, do you believe that right now, as we're talking, this could be an illusion?
Yes.
So you're kind of more of a Descartes follower.
Well, I believe it's not Descartes to believe that we can't prove anything exists, because we haven't proved anything exists. So it's more of like a follower of the ideas that he started.
Yeah. Interesting. I never really researched him. So, yeah, that's very interesting. Well, there's a lot of, I guess, theories out there, but you believe Jesus existed. Do you believe he ever told a lie if he existed?
Jesus? I don't know. I can't say.
Yeah, interesting. Well, he said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to God but by me." But personally, I don't believe Jesus could ever lie. So I've actually put faith in him, and he's changed my life and helped me to live a much better life, and show me I've sinned. I need forgiveness, and he's given me forgiveness, and he's given me eternal life. And salvation from the lake of fire. I mean, to me, it's the best and most important decision you can make is for Christ. And I just hope more people one day will see it. I know right now maybe you don't see it, but the devil is a deceiver, and he does lie to us through people and through organizations and things like that. He's the father of lies, the Bible says. So really what we have to discern is truth versus lies. That's kind of important in me. I'm an ex-math teacher. I'm logical. I like to know facts, right? And there's a lot of lies out there. But when you read the Bible and you look at the complexity of creation, these trees and everything, I mean, it's so complex. I know there has to be intelligent design behind it. So then the question is, who did it? And who's the right God, right? And since you believe Jesus existed, that's a great starting point. maybe now you just need to come to the revelation that he is who he said he was, which is God in the flesh, who died for our sins, you know.
Well, I don't think there is any significant reason for me to believe in it.
Yeah, because you don't need forgiveness, you think, right?
Well, I mean, I want forgiveness from the people that I've wronged,
Sure.
but I don't think God is someone that I've wronged.
I see. Well, he sees a sin against others as a sin against him also. That's actually King David said that. He said, "Against you and you only have I sinned," after he sinned with Bathsheba. You know that story about Bathsheba?
I don't think so.
Well, he basically committed adultery, and he had the husband of her basically go out in the front lines and get killed in the battle, and then he took her as wife, and then basically Nathan the prophet came and told him, "Hey, you've committed a big sin against the Lord," and it wasn't just against that man, it was against, he brought dishonor to Israel and himself, and he sinned against God. And he said, and actually King David said, "Against you and you only have I sinned." In Psalm, I believe it's 51, talks about that. He says, "Have mercy on me," and ask for cleansing from all of his sins and forgiveness. So when we sin, it isn't just something that we can ask that person. We also got to go to the Creator, right? Because we've actually broken his law and need forgiveness from him. That's why the Israelites, if you notice in the Old Testament, they sacrificed a lot of animals and things like that when they had sinned, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said that he asked God for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Did he ask for forgiveness of the woman that he sort of forced into marrying him?
Talking about Jesus forced someone to marry him?
No.
Or King David?
The Bathsheba.
Bathsheba is a woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, King David was the man.
Okay, King David?
Yeah.
Okay, so King David sent her...
He sent for her. Yeah, exactly.
Out
Yeah.
to die?
Yeah.
And then when she was all single and ready to mingle?
Yeah.
Okay, so then he married her, right?
Yes, King David did. Yeah.
Okay, so he committed adultery.
Yes.
Did he ever ask for forgiveness from her?
That's a good question. It doesn't really talk so much about that. It doesn't really talk much about that. But I think that she was complicit in it wasn't like she said, no, it wasn't like he raped her. So to me, it's kind of like she was complicit in the, sleeping with him.
She decided to marry that guy.
Yeah.
And he sort of had him arranged to die.
Yeah.
Sending him out to the
Yeah.
war.
It was all bad. Yeah.
But why didn't he ask for forgiveness from her? Why only from God?
That's a good. Maybe he did. Maybe the scripture's
did,
kind of silent on it. But yeah, maybe.
Why isn't it
would
part
be a
of the
good thing.
message that he should have forgiven her?
That's a great question. But I think that maybe you can see right from wrong, right? It makes sense that that's wrong.
I can't
right?
always see right from wrong.
Well, in that would you say in that situation that was wrong?
Of him?
Yeah.
Towards her, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't matter.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, I care about it. I care.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, it's like a tragic thing that happened.
Sure.
Yeah, that it wasn't something right to do.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
I can have an
Of course it
intrinsic
doesn't.
effect, but it
Yeah.
doesn't directly, my life doesn't change.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
So why would it be so why would morality be universal if it's not always affecting universally?
Well, morality, okay, God of course, he made the 10 Commandments in the Old Testament. Then Jesus even says, if you lust in your heart, it's a sin. If you are angry with somebody without cause, it's a sin. So he even takes it to the thought level. And the Bible says, take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. So morality is based really off of the mind of Christ. If we do anything mentally that isn't with the mind of Christ, then we're sinning even in our mind, in our heart. So
I feel like Christianity is best known through history to be sort of like how civilization kind of is possible. Not and here's why, is because when you believe in Christianity, you believe in treating everyone with kindness.
Yeah, that's right.
People that have wronged you.
Yeah.
It's all about keeping these people who have these differences and keeping all these people who have all these different, positions in life. You have kings interacting with peasants in the Bible.
Sure.
And you have them treating each other with kindness.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why civilization is possible, is because that sort of set the balance, or that sort of set like the morality in the beginning. Like, this is the right thing to do. And it sort of introduced the idea of what is right, what is overall good.
Yeah.
Except that's good in the beginning, to say that there is good and bad.
Yeah.
But now I think we need to separate from it a little bit and sort of take what we know now and what we've built on since we've had this, and we need to focus on that.
Well, would you say that society has sometimes treated people wrongly because of money, like corporations and things like that, right? They kind of leave God's principles and they go, well, we don't care about loving our neighbors ourselves. We're just going to make money. And it doesn't matter if we poison this water or take this land or kill these people.
But a lot of them usually still go to church.
Right, exactly, right? But that doesn't mean anything. What matters is are they practicing what they preach, supposedly, right? Yeah, so I think society, unfortunately, typically leaves God's principles for greed,